1-1, remember, in the first leg. This is the second leg scenario. The United States can, in theory, get through with a 0-0 draw here tonight. A higher scoring draw would result in Colombia going through on the away goals rule. There is one scenario which would send us to extra time, and that is 1-1 after 90 minutes. Will Trapp continuing to captain the United States, the Columbus Crew man. You saw the US under-23 players watching the senior team in action as they arrived here, perhaps drawing some inspiration from that big result in Columbus. Christian Bonilla is the man in goal for Colombia. He's the national team number 3. All set for action. The thrill of Brazil awaiting the victors. It'll be a glum summer watching from the sidelines for the vanquished. It's all or nothing here in Frisco, Texas tonight. Can the US erase the painful memories of 4 years ago? It's almost exactly, in fact, 4 years to the day that the US lost out in dramatic fashion in the very last seconds against El Salvador, the qualifying 4 years ago in Nashville, Tennessee. The United States players keen to move on from that. Will Trapp saying we don't need to do this to make up for 2012. We need to do this for ourselves. They came into this two-legged tie, I think it's fair to say, as underdogs, Ali, and they perhaps exceeded expectations with that draw on the road. The big question is, can they change the dynamic? They only had 25% of possession in Barranquilla.
And that's not high. That's not very high, is it? And we talked to Andreas Herzog about it, and he talked about the possession and the importance of turning that number around and allowing themselves an opportunity to generate not only possession in the defensive half, but generate possession in the attacking half, and from there create opportunities that threaten Colombia defensively.
One of the men who's in as a result of those talks, Paul Arriola, involved in the action there. There you see him wearing number 11. Plays his club football in Mexico with Club Tijuana. And there's the other change to Sevio Payne, who plays professionally in the Dutch Eredivisie. He comes in at right back. It means Kellen Acosta switches flanks over to the left-hand side tonight.
It also means that Luis Gil, the goal scorer in Colombia, is not on the field tonight as a starter, but it gives us a sense as to the idea by Andy Herzog is, look, you need guys that can defend in certain positions, and you need the width and the ability for players to get forward from wide areas, and that's not Luis Gil's strongest part.
Well, that was a welcome to the game challenge there for Arriola, courtesy of Guillermo Celis. He was the man called up from the full national team. He played 90 minutes for Colombia in World Cup qualifying just this past Thursday. That dramatic 3-2 win against Bolivia. And he is a no-nonsense defensive midfield enforcer, isn't he, Celis? Will Trapp. Going down the line for Mario Rodriguez. So that strike partnership continuing tonight, the one we saw in Barranquilla, Jordan Morris and Mario Rodriguez together. You got the sense that Andy Herzog was pondering Jerome Kiesewetter. This breaks for Mercado here. He's one of the 3 new arrivals in the Colombian lineup, the left back. Machado, who plays with Millonarios in Colombia.
And David Machado, perhaps a little bit more offensive-minded than Christian Borja, is giving them an opportunity, Colombia that is, to not only attack on the right-hand side with Palacios, but also on the left with David Machado as he overlaps.
Here's Rodriguez. Good win from Tim Parker in the air. Parker was very impressive in the first leg in Matt Miazga, the central defensive pairing. There is Parker, the Vancouver Whitecaps man.
Yeah, and as much attention as Matt Miazga gets, Tim Parker was the more impressive defender in Colombia. Nothing fancy about his game. He's just going to mark up tight. He's going to defend well. Doesn't take many chances playing out of the back. but in the end keeps a very dangerous Harold Preciado under check as he did in that first match, and it allowed then the United States to think about defending well, defending as a unit tonight, but they can't do that for 90 minutes though, Adrian. They have to be able to play, they have to be able to maintain possession.
There's Emerson Hyndman feeding it inside to Matt Polster. Polster and Trapp will be the safety valve for the US in front of the back four. Emerson Hyndman with a little more room to create. Here's Jordan Morris trying to do just that, combining with Hyndman. Hyndman, one of the more impressive US performers down on Colombian soil. And the youngest man in the United States lineup, Hyndman. One of several US players with Dallas connections, and there's another one, Kellen Acosta, who was fairly swarmed upon by the local media yesterday, wasn't he? Dallas Academy product. Here's his opposite number, DeSevio Payne. Areola. Already signs of better possession here for the US. Acosta, who loves to get forward. Doesn't generally play as fullback for his club, FC Dallas, more of a defensive midfielder. Mario Rodriguez losing out there to Mina. Oh, it's stolen away in midfield for Colombia. This is promising. Roger Martinez on the move. Good save down low from Horvath. Ethan Horvath, who took that nasty blow in the first leg and had to come off, already called into action.
And it's been a comfortable start for the United States. DeSevio Payne has time to play, decides that he's going to dribble out of the back, takes a chance. Roger Martinez with strength holds him up. Horvath makes himself big, makes the save. Unnecessary risk by Payne in a game that has been controlled so far by the United States.
Well, they knew all about Quintero, didn't they, as the danger man, but Roger Martinez is certainly in the same category. The number 17 for Colombia. He plays his club football in Argentina with Racing Club, and is very much a starter as well in the Argentine First Division at the age of 21. There's Carlos Restrepo. He's won titles in Colombia and Costa Rica at club level, also coached in Venezuela.
I appreciate you mentioning Venezuela. That's nice.
Well, you've got connections to both managers here tonight. Andy Herzog, the other manager, former teammate of yours with the Los Angeles Galaxy.
He could play a ball with that left foot.
Yeah, he was a Beckham signing before there were David Beckham signings,
yeah.
wasn't he, Andy Herzog, right at the tail end of his career. Under Siggy Schmidt in LA. Of course, big part of Jurgen Klinsmann's coaching setup, one of his assistants with the national team. Still lives in Vienna. Andy Herzog scouts a lot of these European-based players on a consistent basis for Jurgen Klinsmann.
If you've ever seen Andy Herzog hit a volley with that left foot, you'd never forget it. He was special.
Well, that ball wasn't quite as special there for Harold Preciado to chase after. He's another prolific goal scorer at club level, Ali, with Deportivo Cali.
And Preciado, a lot like the rest of Colombia in that first leg, they all look very anxious to score, very anxious to get things going, and frustrated by the well-organized back line of the United States. Carlos Restrepo talked about that and mentioned how they were not only anxious, but almost wanting to score 5 goals in one shot. And he asked his team to be a little bit more calm, a little bit more relaxed, and understand that this is a long game and that they're good enough to win this match.
They certainly had their chances in Barranquilla, plenty of them, but didn't force enough saves for their liking from the 2 US goalkeepers on the night. Ethan Horvath and Cody Cropper, who replaced him. Of course, that goalkeeper change in the searing conditions for Andy Herzog meant he had one less outfield substitution to make. It really took its toll in the latter stages of that game. About 30 degrees cooler tonight. Probably feels about 60 degrees cooler with the blustery wind conditions. 20-25 miles an hour it's blowing down there at times. Ethan Horvath, the goalkeeper, told me yesterday, Ali, it was as hot as he's ever been as a professional player, and he's played pre-season in Dubai with his club team before. There's Quintero, who plays his club football in France at the moment. He plays for Rennes on loan. It's Porto who actually own him. They paid $6 million for him a couple of years ago.
Well, he plays is a relative term. He's with Rennes, but hasn't featured really in over a couple of months. And the coach at Rennes has talked about Juan Quintero's being lost. That's never good.
Well, the US would like him to remain lost for the next 90 minutes. Maybe asking a bit much, though. He tends to see everything go through him. Ethan Horvath trying to get things set up here. The free kick is floated in. There's an open man. The header down is up for grabs. Acosta at full stretch. Well, it was a bit of an undignified scramble for the US defence, but they survived. Preciado was lurking.
Well, it's too easy. It's a straight ball down the middle. Mar Miazga doesn't pay attention to the movement of Jerry Mina, who gets in behind. And eventually Tim Parker is able to clear it. But as Miazga misjudges the ball, it allows Mina to put the ball into a dangerous position. But Preciado doesn't react on time, and eventually the danger goes.
A little misstep there by Matt Miazga, who had a couple of shaky moments, didn't he, in the first leg, and another there, perhaps, as he's caught in possession. He's a man, of course, who hasn't played much club football. No club football of late, Ali, after the big move to Chelsea.
And I don't care who you are. You sit on the bench for a while, and you don't get game action, it's difficult to get back into a rhythm. And you don't want to try to get back into a rhythm trying to go into the Olympics.
Parker to Miazga, who was on the bench for Chelsea for a Champions League game. But he's got no closer to seeing the field. There's a US player down. I think it's Mario Rodriguez. Slow to get up. The play goes on. Ravshan Urmatov, by the way, is the referee from Uzbekistan in charge tonight. Referee with World Cup pedigree. Here come Colombia. The shot is a vicious and dipping one. Horvath relieved to see that sail just over the top.
The player rotation and movement by Colombia in the attack. Andres Roa from the left-hand side tugs all the way down to the right-hand side. Nobody stays with him. He finds space in between the lines on the turn, hits it well, but just over the bar.
And Roa's effort bringing a surge of noise from the Colombian element in the crowd. They were the early arrivals here, that's for sure. Their national team, full national team, was in action much earlier today as well. A comfortable victory for the Cafeteros in South American qualifying against Ecuador. It was a good win for Colombia.
And they came off beating Bolivia at Bolivia. Not an easy thing to do. Last week, 6 points, 2 matches. Perfection by Colombia, and they needed it.
Seems remarkable, doesn't it, that a nation with the soccer pedigree of Colombia has been absent from the Olympics for so long. But South American places are tough to come by. They only award 2.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Painful personal experience, Ali, as Machado is on his way down the line. But of course, with the Olympics in Brazil this summer, there was an extra half a place awarded, and thus this playoff between the third place finishers in South America and in CONCACAF. And the US finished third thanks to that semi-final defeat against Honduras back in the October qualifying competition. Here's Quintero and goes for goal again.
The common denominator in the build-up continues to be Quintero. Early pressure. Once Quintero is able to get possession of the ball, as Emerson Hyman is unable to maintain possession for the United States. Quintero had only one thought in mind, that was going to goal.
Well, he drew Lionel Messi comparisons, didn't he, at a much earlier age? But he's not the first player to draw such comparisons and perhaps
Careful with that.
failed to live up to billing. It was the diminutive size and the left foot, perhaps, that led people to draw those comparisons. Colombia in a spell of control now, in possession after a somewhat bright start by the US. Roger Martinez is on his way here, shadowed by Acosta. Kellen Acosta, who signed here in Dallas as a 16-year-old. Made his full national team debut as well in January in that friendly against Iceland. Part of the US win, as you can see, at the Under-20 World Cup against these same opponents just last June. That was down in New Zealand. Several players on both teams tonight actually playing in that game in Wellington. In fact, a bit of an oddity about South American qualifying is it is the actually the Under-20 team that tries to qualify for the Olympics. So this Colombian Under-23 team actually getting together for the first time in some 12 years. It's not an age level they normally play at.
And as a South American, I can tell you that's not the only oddity about South American soccer and World Cup qualifying. Or Olympic qualifying, or so on and so forth.
Well, part of what's generally been considered a golden generation, this current generation of Colombian football. A full national team that dazzled and delighted us all in Brazil, but they've, I guess, like the US national team themselves, had a bit of a rough time of it since 2014. Starting to put it right with a couple of World Cup qualifying wins in a row. And how they would dearly love the Under-23s to be there in Brazil this summer, but the US looking to avoid consecutive eliminations. Paul Arriola, part of that push tonight. He played in an Under-17 World Cup and an Under-20 World Cup for the US. Just past a quarter of an hour gone in Frisco. 0-0 on the night, still 1-1 on aggregate. Still that Luis Gil away goal. He's the one that gives the slender advantage to the US, but Will Trapp is caught in possession. Alarm bells ringing here. That's not the first time that the US have coughed the ball up in a very dangerous spot.
It's a similar sequence as the one in which they scored a goal in Barranquilla. Playing out of the back with Will Trapp, not a good first touch. And Harold Preciado takes forever to make the decision whether to take the shot, to pass the ball on, and allows Will Trapp to make the tackle.
The header comes in. Horvath at full stretch to deny Colombia the opener. The pressure mounting on the US goal. Quintero looking to keep it. The pump well and truly primed. Actually, it's Roa that's going to take it. That is caught in the wind, though, and drifts behind. And the US will take some time to breathe, Ali.
Quickly taking free kick from the left-hand side. The service in, a little deflection. It's a tremendous reaction save from the Jerry Mina header by Horvath. Full stretch on the bounce. But you said it, Adrian. The pressure seems to be mounting, and the US just hanging on at this point.
And those of you that watched the first leg will remember intense early pressure from Colombia. The US breaking forward and scoring from their first real opportunity. Can Acosta carve anything out here? He can't. He's not going to get the free kick either. Savio Payne. Good Looking ball down the line for Rodriguez, who made that smart run and set up Luis Gil on Friday in Barranquilla. Mario Rodriguez, who plays with the Borussia Mönchengladbach second team. Grew up in North Hollywood, Mario Rodriguez, but signed for Mönchengladbach, plays regularly in front of crowds at number about 400 in the German 4th division. This is Emerson Heinemann at the controls for the US. Matt Polster hauling it in and keeping the US on the front foot. Acosta. Simply crowded out in the end, Kellen Acosta. There weren't many options for him in either direction. And a late challenge there. And referee Ravshan Ermatov is reaching for the yellow card. It's Mario Rodriguez who's the recipient.
Sloppy pass coming out of the back. It forces Rodriguez to try to challenge. Drops back. And there's no question that it's a yellow card.
And he may be lucky, Ali, that was merely yellow. We've certainly seen red come out for that in recent times.
Perhaps the fact that he didn't give it the full stamp, it was more of a touch rather than a stump.
Well, I think Ravshan Ermatov shared your opinion. Here's Trapp. Of course, the US don't have to score here tonight. 0-0 would be enough for them, but that is a scenario that couldn't have been further from Andy Herzog's thinking. Talking to him yesterday. All about possession and positioning, the two P words he used. It's interesting, he rated his side's chances at almost exactly 50-50. Getting the job done here. Now then, was that some retribution that Machado was the man who just thundered into the challenge, and tempers are flaring here. Ravshan Ermatov trying to keep a lid on things. But it was an agricultural challenge, wasn't it, from Machado? Nothing disguised about this.
He knows he's not winning the ball. He goes for the body of Payne. Look, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
People are going to get upset and what have you, but challenges for the ball. Doesn't really get there. He's late. Deserves a yellow card, and come on, let's play. Let's get it going again. No need to get all excited about it, is what I'm saying, I suppose.
Well, order is restored. Calmness returns. Somewhat reminiscent of the challenge that led to Horvath having to be pulled out of the game in the first half in Barranquilla. It's Heinemann doing battle. Emerson Heinemann also back in Dallas, where he grew up. Played on these fields with Kellen Acosta several years ago, he was telling me yesterday. Of course, the grandson of Schellas Heinemann, who was a Dallas legend. Hyman getting the tackle in, and the move might be on here. It's Jordan Morris carrying it forward. Hyman has lots of work to do. Trying to shrug off Jerry Mina. And he loses the size battle. In fact, gets the decision against him as well.
And I know the sequence doesn't amount to much for the United States, but the ability to force Juan Quintero into a situation where he's playmaking from deeper positions, forcing turnovers, and then going on the counter-attack. It allows the United States to relieve some pressure, to push numbers forward, and the opportunity to then commit those numbers forward, looking for an opportunity to score.
Well, the home crowd howling in derision as another decision goes in Colombia's favor. This was Arriola's challenge. I don't think he has any complaints particularly. Clearly second to the ball.
But yet he complained and told David Machado to get up. All right.
The US trying to tap into some good Texas vibes for the national team. First time they've ever played in the Lone Star State at the under-23 level, but the senior national team have gone 19 games in the state of Texas without defeat. Rodriguez into Will Trapp. Now I got a double header to tell you about in a couple of weeks' time. April the 10th is the date. The US women's national team against Colombia. Familiar foes. That'll be followed by a Western Conference matchup from MLS, the Houston Dynamo against the Seattle Sounders. It's April the 10th at 2 and 4 o'clock Eastern. So glad you could be with us tonight. Adrian Healy, Alejandro Moreno with you. Would you label this as so far so good, Ali, for the US?
There were some nervous moments there around the 15th minute mark where Colombia had all the momentum, but when the game settles down and the United States are able to defend with numbers and sustain some possession, then it frustrates Colombia and it forces Quintero to try to receive the ball on his defensive half. If he's there, he's not nearly as dangerous and it becomes more predictable, where the United States can defend a whole lot better with Quintero so far from goal.
I mean, he really is like a magnet, isn't he, Quintero? Everything goes through and the ball always seems to be heading in his direction. And he's at the controls for most of the set pieces too. Scored the penalty on that Friday night in Barranquilla. His service finds a way through a crowd. This is Minia, the centre-back, trying to dart through, and Horvath had to react smartly, concedes the corner. And his contribution was needed there, the goalkeeper having to come sprinting off his line.
The big man Jerry Mina does well in taking that space to the outside, but good reaction by Ethan Horvath.
And the job's not done yet for him as well, facing this corner, which goes beyond the far post. Nodded back across with an invitation attached, only half away from Hindman. This is Barrios for Colombia. Going to take the long way around. They press the reset button with Celis. Forward from Machado, Tim Parker. A positive header clear, and the offside flag will spell some more relief for the US defence.
And on the missed clearance, Jerry Mina is allowed to take Payne to the outside, and Horvath comes out, makes contact with the ball, deflects it for a corner kick. Good non-call by the referee. Good work by Ethan Horvath.
Well, Horvath, who has really come on in leaps and bounds, isn't he? The starting goalkeeper for the U-23s. Plays with Molde in the Norwegian First Division. And a big few months for him as well, playing some big games in the Europa League, as Molde made a run relatively deep into the competition. The Talked about big game experience and pressure on the respective sets of players, and Andy Herzog didn't dislike what his players had in the tank in that regard. He mentioned Horvath and his Europa League experience. Will Trapp has played in an MLS Cup. Matt Miazga getting a taste of life with Chelsea.
And there's no substitute for that experience. When you look at the Colombian team, you have a bunch of players that are participating in Copa Libertadores and what that means in South America.
The biggest club competition of them all. That's a decent service in. The chance is there, and it's tucked in. Colombia have their breakthrough. The US can't say they haven't been warned. And the vital away goal advantage has evaporated here in Frisco.
Good work by Barrios on the right-hand side. We talked about Elivento Palacios, always willing to get forward. And as the ball falls to Andres Roa, he mishits it. This ball is going out wide. But Roger Martinez able to get the last touch. Palacios with a good cross in, missed clearance. Not well played by Payne. The ball is going wide, and everybody's collapsing in behind Horvath, keeping Roger Martinez on side. It's well deserved by Colombia. So far, they've been the better team.
Oh, Martinez, the goal poacher, very much living up to billing, in the right place at the right time. How often do we see it, Ali? A mishit shot turning into something productive. Martinez made the most of it. The man who's been scoring plenty of goals in the Argentine top flight gets one for his country, and Colombia looking to cash in now with the momentum.
This is where the United States, they have to be careful. They've been talking about this away goal. The media have been talking about the away goal. Everybody asking about the away goal. Well, now the away goal is gone. Now you have to play. How you approach this game from here on out, not only physically, but the approach mentally to the game. How do you react to now the fact that that away goal is gone, that false sense of security is gone? The United States must play, must be able to sustain possession and relieve some pressure. They got to get forward.
And they have to ride this out as well, Ali, because the one thing they can't afford to do is concede a second, because then they would need 3. And there's been scant sign of any of those coming so far. Stoppage here as the goal scorer is helped back to his feet. Man who plays alongside Diego Milito, the legendary Argentine striker at club level. That's...
Yep. That's a naughty boy, Kellen Acosta.
Little stamp on the foot was there. The service in. And another presentable opportunity. And again for Martinez, who was able to recover quickly enough.
Martinez steps on Acosta, and then Acosta does the same to Martinez, but in a far more egregious way. But not picked out by the referee or the assistant.
Can the US keep their cool here? Can they keep their shape? Can they repel the increasing waves of Colombian attacks? They have the bit between the teeth now. Tim Parker clearing his lines. Belton Palacios wearing number 13 for Colombia, another who's appeared for the full national team. He had a thankless task. He was asked to mark Angel Di Maria on his debut. Colombia lost against Argentina by a 1-0. Easy clearance forward from Machado, but Tim Parker is there. Let's go back and look at the goal again. Ali.
Look at Wilmar Barrios. This is your defensive midfielder out on the right-hand side. The overlapping run by Elton Palacios. Nobody goes with him. The Rono Martinez sucks the defenders into the middle. Miazga and Payne, they don't clear the ball. And then from an open shot, a miss hit by Roa that's going wide, but Martinez reacts well. It's a big goal for Colombia.
Yeah, Matt Miazga just got a graze on it, didn't he, rather than a real clearance. Here's Rodriguez. Gonna mix things up. Good work from Celis. And it falls for the US here, and Matt Polster trying to instigate something, not for long. Great sliding challenge from Roa. He ends up on the ground though, and the US have it back, and a little bit of space perhaps for Jordan Morris. He is herring forward, Morris. Putting the brakes on, and unable to get the cross away in time. Jordan Morris. I think he rather enjoys the state of Texas too. Scored for the full national team here a year ago.
He was relatively quiet in Barranquilla and very quiet tonight so far here.
He's had a tough start to life as a professional. Jordan Morris, the Seattle Sounders, his hometown club team, losing their first 3 games in MLS for the first time ever. Another swift turn by Martinez, who's really looking lively and in the mood. Scored the winner in a big game against Boca Juniors just a few weeks ago. The only goal of that game. That's the only goal of this game so far.
Boca Juniors now coached by Columbus Crew legend Guillermo Barros Queloto. And Boca Juniors legend Guillermo Barros Queloto, I should say.
It's Quintero. Almost that seeing eye pass from him. Just a little overdone. There's been a lot of talk about Schelotto one day coming back to MLS. Ali, your former teammate, you won an MLS Cup with him. Now then, promising for Jordan Morris, but the ball just skipping out of his reach. Frustration, because the idea was nice and there was space there for Morris.
And it just needs to be a better delivery from Emerson Hyman. He picks out the right ball. Jordan Morris off the shoulder of Jerry Mina. He's getting in behind. But just a little bit too long from Hyman.
Hyman, who is very naturally a playmaker. He's been asked to play more on the left-hand side in Andy Herzog's system, but so smooth, so productive on the ball at times. Of course, he plays his club football in the English Championship, where we don't always say smooth and easy on the eye, do we? But be interesting to see whether he stays there with Fulham or if he makes a move away. Acosta. Nothing fancy about that clearance, but effective. Rodriguez, you could see what he had in mind. Going for the little dinked header into the path of Morris.
Both Rodriguez and Jordan Morris somewhat isolated from the rest of the team. And as Rodriguez drops back to defend, then that really isolates Jordan Morris. And when the United States win possession of the ball, there isn't really the opportunity for an outlet, so it's difficult to sustain that possession.
Now Roa skipping around at Payne. Roa, and a safe pair of hands from Horvath. And a quick instigation of a counter-attack as well from the goalkeeper. Can the US move this fluidly? Well, they weren't able to.
It's got to be quicker. The transition has got to be quicker. It's got to be more direct. You got numbers. It's a 4v4 situation. You got to push it. get numbers ahead of the ball, get runs ahead of the ball, get width. And once you produce that movement and you have that space in a 4v4 matchup, you got to make something of it.
Very promising numbers-wise, as you said. I think it was a 5 against 5 there after the quick thinking in action from Horvath. Kellen Acosta was actually sent off against Colombia in that Under-20 World Cup game last June. The decision going at Colombia's way. Certainly most of the stats have gone Colombia's way when you look at the shots. First leg, Colombia out shooting the US 18-5. They only made one of them count, and it's 7-0 so far in that department tonight.
Well, we just haven't seen enough of the United States in the attacking half. Never mind the final third. It's difficult to recount any sort of sequence where the United States are completing passes in the final third, getting overlapping runs, joining in the attack, trying to find some rhythm going forward. It just hasn't happened yet.
If you're wondering, here in Frisco, the rough estimation of the crowd, probably 60-40, I would say, in favor of Colombia. Maybe that's being a little kind. Certainly, the Colombian fans have the US fans outnumbered, as you can probably tell by the noise volumes. Although here comes Josevio Payne waking up the US fans. Not a bad pass either. The shot might be on for Hyman, and it was, but it thundered its way into the big frame of Jerry Mina. A little bit better, though, from the US.
As that ball is played down the middle, and Eliventon Palacios collapses towards the middle as well, tucks inside. There is a huge amount of space for Kellen Acosta on the overlapping run down the left-hand side. Emerson Hyman tucks inside as well. If he gets into that position, once he takes that touch forward, the shot is not on. Maybe look to get it out wide and commit numbers into the box.
Well, Christian Bonilla has been a virtual spectator, hasn't he, the Colombian goalkeeper tonight. But will he have some work to do at the tail end of this first half? Acosta. And Matt Polster, the Chicago fireman. Morris caught in possession. Ball caught between his feet. And now Parker has to be wary of the quick counter-attack, and he was. Stay with us at half-time. We'll bring you all the first half highlights from here in Frisco. Also, post-game report from Columbus after the US got it right tonight against Guatemala.
That last sequence, that's a part of Jordan Morris's game that he has to improve. Playing with his back to goal, being able to bring the ball down, hold up play, allow people to join in the attack. If he doesn't hold it up, then it doesn't allow the midfielders to catch up to the rest of the attack.
And again, it's easy to forget with Jordan Morris, isn't he? He's a guy literally just starting his professional career. He's a name that's been on our lips for a while after being called up to the full national team out of the collegiate ranks.
Well, if you're going to sell him and we're going to talk about him, we're going to promote him, and U.S. Soccer is all over him, then he's got to deliver. I don't care how long he's been a professional. There's an expectation with Jordan Morris, and this is the sort of game that you need Jordan Morris to come up with something special.
And I mentioned that goal in Texas for the full national team against Mexico. It was in San Antonio last April. He left that game and went back to a political science class at Stanford. You don't say that too often after scoring for the national team, but a year on, as you say, the expectations are completely different. This is how Preciado went down. You see an awful lot of contact.
Well, it's a universal sign. I just did my hamstring.
Yep. Harold Preciado, who has scored 24 goals for Deportivo Cali last year. Also experience in the Copa Libertadores. I think clearly his Evening appears to be over. Some activity on the Colombian bench. I think it's actually Christian Borja who's warming up. That's interesting if it is going to be Borja who comes on, because he's a defender. We'll see if that's what Carlos Restrepo actually does. Final minutes of the first half in Frisco. There are going to be 2 minutes of stoppage time tacked on. Is that time enough for the US to take something positive into the locker room with them? Well, they'll have a free kick with which to work after Areola was sived down, and it brings another booking. Paul Areola with the quick feet.
First time that we see Paul Areola talking inside, getting in between the lines, creating some space for himself, going forward, down the middle. Guillermo Celis late to the challenge. Good call by the referee. Nice little turn by Areola, getting forward. No question about the foul.
Areola, who plays for the legendary Miguel Herrera, of course, at Club Tijuana.
El Piojo.
Part of quite a big US contingent that play just over the border. The crowd coming alive now as Hyman floats it in. Bonilla decides to come and meet it, and does so definitively. In towards Rodriguez it comes. A little flurry at the end of this first half for the US. Can they make it amount to anything? A little trap arriving on the scene. Colombia will just cool things off here. It was about as loud as we've heard the US segment of the crowd here in that first half. And their team, you feel, will need them in the second half. So try and mount a comeback. They have a free kick, which will be almost the last kick of the first half here, though. Mario Rodriguez taking a nasty blow.
Got to get a good service in. Good runs in the box. Attack the ball, attack the space, and a big boy like Matt Miazga on the back post trying to get him the end of it.
There's Miazga and Parker awaiting. Hyman to float this in. Can Miazga win it? He can. He got the nod down, but no one on the end of it, and that should just about do it for the first half. Miazga, who made that $5 million move from MLS to Chelsea. And the US are left with it all to do now in the second half. They go in trailing by 1-0, courtesy of Martinez and his goal poaching prowess midway through the first half. We will recap the full first 45 minutes here. Also get a report from Columbus as the US got back on track against Guatemala. All that to come next.